Both Canada and the United States may provide fantastic opportunities for international students. However, there are certain critical aspects to consider while determining the country you should study as an international student. The completion of 12 years of schooling and taking the SAT are prerequisites for applying to most American and Canadian colleges offering undergraduate program. In addition to your GPA, institutions in the United States ask you to submit results from GRE or GMAT, TOEFL or IELTS and other admission examinations. While Canadian institutions place more emphasis on your GPA and IELTS or TOEFL score than they do on your GRE or GMAT scores. Consequently, admission to Canadian institutions is considerably simpler. Having said that, let's look at the major differences. The quality of higher education. When comparing the quality of higher education in the United States and Canada, the university rankings of the two nations differ dramatically. According to the QS World University Rankings of 2022, just two Canadian institutions are ranked in the top 100 universities worldwide. In contrast, this ranking is dominated by American institutions with 29 universities in the top 100, with 18 universities in the top 50. Although ranking does not tell the entire story yet, it is reasonable to assume that the United States is somewhat superior than Canada in terms of the quality of academic research. Cost of higher education in the United States versus Canada. When it comes to the cost of education for overseas students, Canada is much less expensive than the United States. Comparing the average cost of higher education at public and private universities in the United States and Canada reveals this is the case. For example, Canadians' costs run between $7,500 to $22,000 and the American expenses average approximately around $26,000. It is also stated that the expenses of living in the United States is greater than in Canada. The projected cost of living for an international student in the US is between $10,000 and $12,000 per year, or on an average of $700 to $1,000 per month. This will of course depend on how well you budget and save your money and where you choose to study. These expenditures include housing, food, study materials, transportation, clothes, and entertainment throughout the year. Comparatively, the projected cost of living for overseas students in Canada is around $7,500. It should be noted, however, that the real cost is likely to be significantly greater. Living in bigger, more costly cities such as Toronto or Vancouver may significantly increase the expenses. Quality of life, US versus Canada. It is important to evaluate the quality of life while picking where to study. This covers aspects such as healthcare, the cost of living, and the weather. There is an obvious winner when comparing the prices of healthcare in both nations. In general, the cost of healthcare in Canada is much lower than in the United States. This is due to the fact that the Canadian healthcare system is publicly supported. In contrast, the American healthcare system is mostly private. There are considerable regional differences in the cost of living in both nations. Therefore, there is no obvious winner here. In both nations, heavily populated regions have a much higher cost of living than less populous parts. For instance, the cost of living for overseas students studying in Vancouver, Canada or New York City in United States will be much higher. In comparison, overseas students who pay less to study in Canada or Purdue in the United States. There are further advantages to studying in heavily populated areas of the United States or Canada. For example, the prices of public transport, For instance, if you are studying in a city with a huge metro system such as Toronto in Canada. The United States has a variety of climatic zones including a warm and dry California and a humid Florida. Canada, on the other hand, has a colder, more consistent climate with less weather volatility than the United States. In general, many foreign students choose the United States over Canada due to its many climatic possibilities. If year-round good weather is important to you, studying in the United States is preferable than studying in Canada. The costly private healthcare system in the United States is well known worldwide, and this also applies to overseas students who want to study there. Foreign students in the United States are required to apply for health insurance and often pay a hefty cost. Canada, in contrast, has a universal healthcare system. In a number of provinces, temporary residents, including overseas students, will get free healthcare. In jurisdictions where this is not the case, students may enroll in their school's insurance plan or seek out cheap private healthcare solutions. Canada is particularly receptive to foreign students and has sought to boost the number of international students enrolled in its universities. One method in which this has been accomplished is by providing students with additional options to find jobs after graduation and ultimately to get permanent residency. More than half of all international students who study in Canada later applied for permanent residency. The post-graduation work permit program in Canada permits overseas graduates to work in the country for a maximum of 3 years following graduation. This not only helps students find employment in Canada but also opens the door to permanent residency, which may eventually lead to a citizenship. Employment possibilities for overseas students are important consideration while choosing a school. The ability to work abroad before or after finishing a degree represents a great return on investment for many foreign students. Having said that, in terms of population, the gross domestic product US GDP is much higher than in Canada. As a result, there are substantially more job prospects in the United States than in Canada, due to United States being a bigger economy. Permanent residency for employed individuals. Consideration should also be given to ease with which talented immigrants may seek permanent residency in any nation. There are no limits on the number of foreign nationals who may gain permanent residency in Canada. Therefore, it's easier to get a permanent resident in Canada. However, under America's employment-based immigration system, there is an annual limit for employment-based immigrants. In addition, immigrants from populous nations like India and China are subject to yearly country limits. As a consequence, immigrants from China and India may be required to wait more than 10 years before obtaining permanent resident status in the United States. In summary, the US employment-based immigration system is more selective and difficult for talented applicants. This makes Canada a far better alternative for post-study immigration than the United States. So here are my overall thoughts. If you are very ambitious and have the financial means, attend one of the US top private universities. These are world-class universities with world-class professors that appeal to rich international students. Many students first work in the US after completion of their studies and then eventually move to Canada, since getting an work permit or a permanent resident for a skilled worker is easier compared to the US, where you may not be sure if at all you will ever get a permanent residency status. I hope you found this video informative and useful. Thank you for your time.